Welcome to the Age of Fission radio show with your host, Lonnie Clark. We stand together and accept we now live in a world transformed by Fukushima. Monday through Thursday from 8 a.m. to 9 a.m. Pacific Standard Time here on UCY.TV radio. We relentlessly engage every ear that listens. We expose and confront the total lack of accountability for the nuclear industry. Consider social engineering programs who view our bodies, minds, and souls as assets on a balance sheet. We discuss vital current issues, interview activists, and engage our audience in an effort to allow all voices to be heard. The Age of Fission radio show creates a venue that all will choose. We encourage our listeners to reclaim their power and their courage to take action to save our planet from the ravages of greed and indifference. Our actions matter. We remind our listeners that happiness is resistance. Love is greater than fear. Good morning, UCY.TV radio listeners. This is Lonnie Clark with the Age of Fission radio show. I have on the air with me, I guess, a truth teller, not really an anti-nuker. I call ourselves nuke truthers. Patty Ameno, who has been a hero and a champion for the people in her town. But we are going to talk about the current affairs in the United States, because she and I have both been dramatically affected by some of the really white supremacy that's gone on in our environment. So welcome, Patty, to the show, and thanks for joining us.
Oh, you're welcome, Lonnie. Thanks for having me. Yeah, a lot going on in our country. And how did we get here? And I would really want to reach out and speak to all of America, the white Americans, black Americans, Hispanic Americans, all Americans. And listen, we've got to stop the hate. Take a pause and think. This isn't about who's at 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue. That isn't what brought this up. This has been something that has been boiling at a slow cook for 35 years. And it's been at the hands of our Congress, our do-nothing Congress.
I'd say it's been at the hands of more cooking for like 275 years. Let's just be real.
But here, the reason why I say 35 years is that Congress and our government learned after Vietnam that the people of this country were united during Vietnam. We had the moratorium. There was white, black, everybody was marching. Didn't matter to stop that illegal war. That's when we had a draft. And so what did they do? What did Congress do? First of all, they removed the draft. But yet and still, every single male in this country turning the age of 18 still has to register. So
and now every female. Now every female.
And now every female as well. And so what started happening? Okay, after Richard Nixon, he took a little pause, and then he was given the okay to go to China, and what happened? That was the initial pulling the plug out of our bathtub of manufacturing and our jobs. That was the initial thing. Who gave him that blessing? The United States Congress to do that. Oh, it was going to be good for the economy.
Steve Jobs was great. I call him Steve Slave Laborer Jobs. He was the one who did this. Like, Steve Jobs really brought back slave labor. This is why I still to this day refuse to use an Apple product. I mean...
Yeah, well, you know, we are in right now an economy and a goods fair where we have to buy from China. We don't have any manufacturing anymore in this country. We don't have our automobile industry. You know, it was just about ready to kaput. And every time I think about Oldsmobile, that was a tradition in this country. Gone. So many automobiles gone.
Hecho en Mexico, man. Hecho en Mexico. This is the deal. Even a good
we got clubbed on the head by
Mexico.
Japan first. We got clubbed over the head by Japan. And our Congress allowed this to happen. Folks, I'm going to tell you right now, divided, they're going to win. United, okay, we can get our country back. We have to put these things aside. To the white supremacists and to everybody who has issues right now, this is frustration because people cannot get jobs, living wages. They can't get the health benefits that they need, that this country used to have. Okay, everybody deserves a fair shake in this country that wants to work, that wants to do it right, okay? And then people who don't, people who want to commit crime, people who want to go out, that they have to be dealt with. Yes, I agree with this. But we deserve that fair shake because we're paying the bills here. So what are we going to do? Are we going to roll over? Are we going to roll over and just have them continuously laugh because they have been putting up these diversionary hot-button topics that really we wouldn't care about in a good economy? For example, if the economy's good and everybody had a good job in manufacturing or the ability to go to college and benefits, health benefits, you didn't have a care in the world, are you going to care if Susie down the street gets married to Janie? No, because it doesn't affect you personally. You going to care if a young black man is going to go to college, he gets grants, no more grants other than a white counterpart, and wants to be a productive member of this society and pay his taxes? No, you're not going to care about that. You're going to care about crime.
You want me to tell you what my position on that is, reparations? Yeah. As a white person, I will tell you what, even though I come from the bottom rung of the ladder of white people, straight up, and I'm a woman, which puts me on the bottom rung, second only to black women, I think that there ought to be reparations for black people. This country was built, and we need to honor our treaties. We need to go back and make amends to the First Nations. This is complete hypocrisy if we really want to be the people we are, because the Native Americans, the First Nations people, by rights, they are Americans. They are the first Americans.
They are the owners, and that's the original genocide.
Well, okay? Look, that has to end, and this is where I think this is the one good thing about this. It's almost like we've had a big spotlight put on the eyesore and it actually goes to the heart of why Battery, like that young boy, it's funny, is in the news now. They're saying that was a Democrat and he was a Bernie supporter. Well, the fact is he still beat up his mother who was handicapped. And the cops went out there 3 times and did nothing. Why is that? Because we do not value women. It's okay to beat people up in this country. We have come to the point, I think, after Charlottesville, where no, we are not taking you beating us up anymore. And actually, we don't want to have to fight back. We want you to put down your arms against each other. We are one people. This is enough. So we've had more than enough. Basta. That's, when you hear the word basta, that means enough.
Well, I know Italian because my parents came from Italy. And they came during a time, and this is something I'm very adamant about, and I know I'm going to get a lot of support from the right on this one. My mother, for example, came here in 1937. The war had already broken out in Europe. Now, her father was already here in the United States. He had gotten his citizenship by serving in our United States Army, but that gave no gold card to my mother and her 2 younger brothers. She had to be sponsored, and they had to pay the State Department. There was a fee to come over. And so finally, after all the red tape, they got to come over. And my mother had to report to INS on a regular basis. And
how long did that take?
Demonstrate, let me finish here, Lonnie. Demonstrate good citizenship. All the while, she had to sit in the classroom with first graders at the age of 16 and learn the English language. Then there was a 5-year waiting period, and then at the end of that, she went before the INS judge where he asked her, my mother, that only had a 5th grade education in Italy, asked her to recite the Bill of Rights, to which she did. And she was so proud, and she understood where the gold was in this country, because in Italy, as in Europe, America was like the mythology of Mount Olympus.
And
that
why
they
was
stated
that?
That the streets were paved in gold. The gold was in our citizenship in getting the opportunity. Now we hand it out
but
like
let's talk about
anything.
this. What made it unique? You know what made it unique? Let's get down to this, because I have been myself involved in the immigration process personally. I mean, I'll just tell you straight up, I've sponsored several people into the United States. I've seen it from all sides. And so, but this is the issue. Every person that came in valued their citizenship and became citizens as soon as they could, because they love this country. And the reason is because in this country there's a special privilege that you get. But this is the issue. You know why we get special privilege? Because we have a U.S. military who goes around knocking everybody's head, and says your assets are our national interests.
Wait a minute. U.S. military?
Yes. I mean, I have to tell you this. I think the U.S. military is one of the... We need to have a budget line item on everything they want to spend. Right now they have something like $11 trillion.
No, you're not talking about the military now, Lonnie. You're talking about the Defense Department, because you're talking about military. I'm thinking about soldiers, sailors, Marines, and everything, and that's a part of the crew that I belong to, the United States Navy.
I get that, but you know what? We do not need a big, gigantic... If we are a peaceful nation, we do not need that, and I do not agree with this idea there's terrorists out there. I think there's terrorists because we want their assets.
I disagree with you. I disagree with you, because there are people that want to destroy our way of life. I know this one for a fact. I served overseas, and I went into countries I never damn well want to go to again.
You know what part of the way of life they hate? We go into their countries and say, your stuff is our stuff. We have an interest. We want your minerals. We want your rights. Look, Yeah,
I agree with you. They dislike our greed, but what they hate is our way of life, period, our freedoms, because a lot of the Middle East countries are patriarchal. The women are subservient. They're walking behind. They have no rights whatsoever. They are property, and they don't want... a lot of countries over in the Middle East and Muslims, the women can't even drive.
And so you want to tell me why our U.S. military sells them billions of dollars of weapons a year? Because it's for profit. That is
You're saying our military, again, and it's not our military. That would be probably another entity outside of the Defense Department.
Let me just tell you what, the Defense Department is the weaponry department.
Actually, not without a co-head and a co-thought.
Okay, so
Langley.
You know what? I appreciate you being picky about this. You know why? Because this exact splintering of the issues is exactly how the nuclear industry does it to the rest of us. I'm going to tell you what, Patty, in my opinion, I'm not demeaning any service person. I honor every person who's willing to lay their life on the line for our country.
I know you do.
And I love you for that. Because I know this is my thing. Some people are needed for that. But do we need bases that are costing us billions of dollars while our infrastructure is dying? No.
No, not in this day and age. Not when we anymore. Not with all the technology we have. We don't even. And with Navy, air, land, and sea. Are you kidding me? Okay, and drones. No, we don't have to have boots on the ground. But whenever they do, hey, you know what? I look at that as trying to curb population control. I think that's what they're doing, and because we're all expendable here.
So you think every military effort these days is really just a matter of cutting down the population?
When we don't have to have boots on the ground, I think we have been in perpetual war ever since World War II.
Yeah.
Right after World
The
War II,
nuclear
we had
industry,
Korea.
it is the same thing that brought you and I together.
And
right?
the Defense Department, right, because their budget,
See, this is what I
it's
want
not the
you to
military,
explain
it's
to
the
me.
Defense Department. But
defense-
who's pushing that?
Wait,
Who is pushing that? Wait a minute, Lon. Let's get to the heart of this now,
No,
because this is where I wanted to go in the first place.
What's the difference between the Defense Department and the military? In my view, they're one entity. The Defense Department is over the military.
The Defense Department is an agency that is at the top of the military, and that doo-doo flows downhill. Okay?
Okay, so let's stop there.
Well, wait a minute now. See, because who's at the root of this with respect to the Defense Department? You have the United States Congress, who has had the whispering in the ears of corporations like Lockheed and, all these manufacturers for planes and missiles and weaponry that they want to get big government dollar contracts. Look at Halliburton. Look just, in the Middle East, this last war, in Iraq, in the Persian Gulf. Look at the buku mega dollars of taxpayers' money that they got. Look at that. And they were electrocuting. Their contractors couldn't even put the showers up right. We had military getting electrocuted over there. It's ridiculous. And this has been the same story that has gone on time and time and time again, where, our government was paying $600 for a hammer. And this was in the 70s, early 80s.
Look, they're still doing it. The $1 trillion
they
deficit.
Are.
We have a black hole. Well, this is my contention, Patty.
But who's benefiting from that?
Frankly,
who's really benefiting from that,
Congress,
Lonnie?
This is the deal.
Congress. That's right.
No. If Congress chose to cut that off and say, we want a new budget, okay, so you guys can't balance your budget. I'm a tax resolution specialist. I go into people's offices, their books are a freaking mess. I'm like, okay, great. You have no idea what happened in the past. From today on, we're going to know exactly what happened. And you draw a line in the sand. That's what we need to do with the Pentagon. Say, okay, fine, the past is the past. Now start submitting us your budget.
Lonnie,
you know what would happen? Somebody would get murdered.
We can't do that with the Pentagon. We have to do it with Congress because they're the lawmakers and they're supposed to be the leaders. And what they have ended up being,
Patty,
instead of leaders, Lonnie, they have been bleeders of our taxpayers' money, handing it out to everybody when they get the perks on the side, and they have been the law breakers. Matter of fact, look at lobbyists. Lobbyists used to be illegal. But they made it legal for themselves, you see. That's why they're going in there as teachers coming out multimillionaires.
Patty, I have to put myself on mute here to just let you talk, but I'm telling you, the lobbyists are there because of the industrial military complex, because of the war profiteers. They murder anybody who gets in their way. If Congress has two choices. You get rich, or you get dead, or you get politically squashed. And then if you're really bad, you can't earn a very good living. So you can, decide which level you want to be at.
If the people got together, Lonnie, if we marched like what we did in the 70s to stop that illegal war, okay, Congress, these people would be out of office. We need term limits to stop these shenanigans that they've been doing. We need term limits, number one. Number two, you got to have people like Paul Ryan and Nancy Pelosi that, I'm getting ready to cuss, but the H out of there. Okay, I'm sick of them all. And I want to tell everybody right now, hold it, let me get here. Lonnie, please give me some latitude right here. But right now, it doesn't matter. Because whether it's a Republican or the Democrats, it's the same prostitute wearing a different color dress. And here's why. Of all the registered voters in the United States, folks, I want you to really listen to this one. 23% of all American registered voters are Republican. 26% of all American registered voters are Democrats. 47% of all American registered voters are independents. But yet independents cannot vote in the primary. Why? Because they don't want free, thinking people voting and making a predetermined determination of what and who is going to be in place. It is a two-party system, and we need to stop those shenanigans. We need to stop it, and we need to take our country back. Because it starts with Congress. It starts with Congress. If we had decent people in there that was going in there to really...
Who's your congressperson?
Congress?
Yes.
Well, my United States Senator is Bob Casey. Okay? My congressman, I'm not even sure. I'll be honest with you. Because after Jack Murtha, then it was his chief of staff. It was Kritz.
Okay, so hold on
and
a second. What I'm going to do, hold on, and I'm going to ask you a question, and then I'm going to mute your answer so that nobody hears it. Okay, so who's your congressperson? What's your what's it called? Your zip code. Okay, so let's take a look at this because we can look and see who your. So do we blame that on nuclear pollution? I do. Just because we might as well. Okay, who's your representative?
I got it here.
Who's your representative? Find your rep. We're on the House.gov, and your representative is Keith Rothfuss.
Oh.
Republican. He's a Republican.
Rufus, whatever the heck his name is.
Rufus.
Yeah, Rufus. And we never see him up here. He's never been to one of these environmental problems that we have here, like a nuclear and chemical waste dump that's a ticking time bomb. Never been to one.
Well, maybe you should go visit his office. And
maybe I should, but why? Listen, I'll save that breath for a cigarette because it's a waste of time. Just you know. You know
what I think? I think if you have the time, go poke him in the eyes, or at least make a phone call to him and say, you know what? I think it's shameful that you've never been here. And guess what? I've made big news. You actually have a constituent in your district who has actually made a huge difference in helping the lives of your own constituents, and I personally would love the chance to meet with you and talk to you about your position about a lot of the nuclear waste, like the Nuclear Waste Policy Nuclear Act of 2017, which is coming to the House, and they expect all the Republicans to vote for. And I think we as nuke truthers need to call every Republican in our state. That's what I did. I went to Donna Gilmore's website and printed out she has like a little cheat sheet of what this thing is going to do to people and what they're really trying to propose. So I printed it out and faxed it to all of them.
You know what? You just made me, the irony of all this, our Congress, this is, like I said, they are the stone in the shoe of the American people. The Congress, we need to change this, but the Congress, you've got the Republicans and you've got the Democrats, and they are playing with us, giving us diversionary hot-button topics like abortion or gay marriage or this, that, and the other, when people only want some jobs. They want health care. They want manufacturing back. This is what they want. This is the nuts and bolts of the backbone of the American people.
But yet,
they're playing, wait a minute, the Republicans in the Congress make it seem like it's a football game. It's our team and their team. No, it's the American team. It's the American people, and they've been pitting us against one another for over 35 years now, and I've about had it.
You know what it's about,
I've
Patty?
had it.
It's about this idea that profit over people. This is the real issue. The reason all these companies are in Southeast Asia or in all these like slave labor places is that they allow slave labor. They allow their people to get murdered. They allow their people to get contaminated, collapsed on in buildings, to be treated like slaves. They die at their sewing machines, and we as Americans don't see it.
Because we're expendable.
This is the issue. I think
that's why they came up with the term "friendly fire."
You know what tax reform needs to look like? Not tax cuts for the rich. Tax increases. We need exactly what Bernie said. You know what Bernie Sanders? You must know this. 2% tax increase in the taxes on the dividends only. 2% increase on the dividends only. Listen to how big the numbers are on this. If we increase the taxes for the ultra-rich only 2%, we would have enough money so that people in America could go to school for free, and we could pay off the student loan debt within 10 years.
Do you know in Europe, and I know firsthand in Italy, that everybody goes to college, 4-year college free. The only thing they have to pay for is their books. They go to college free. This way, we have a lot of people, I mean, there's a lot of people with college degrees over there that work at different jobs, not necessarily any desk job, but it is something that expands us, it expands us as a human race. Our culture, the American culture, they have been, and I say they, it is Congress again, have been lowering us to a standard where the middle class has been just about obsolete. They're gutting us. And if this is not making the rest of this country really upset, take pause, because it's not about who is and who has been in the White House. It is about the policy by the lawmakers of this country.
Okay,
who
so
have
you
been
want to hear
absolutely
about
the
your own
lawbreakers.
congressman? You want to hear about your own congressman, Congressman Ruffus?
Yeah, tell me about this piece of work.
He is on the following committees and subcommittees. He's on the House Committee of Financial Services.
Oh, great.
He is on the Subcommittee of Financial Institutions and Consumer Credit. He is on the Subcommittee of Housing and Insurance. He is on the Subcommittee of Task Force to investigate terrorism financing. He is on the Republican Policy Committee. He's also a member of the following caucuses: the Republican Study Committee, House Affordable Medicines Caucus. He's the co-chair.
Formidable medicine.
Yes.
Oh, that's pharmaceuticals.
Yes.
Yeah, well, you know what I smell? I smell perks from the lobbyists. That's what I smell. Okay, it's corrupt.
Well, so then this just means you need to do.
You need to be illegal.
You need to canvass your district. I'm going to tell you what, you can change your district if you can get 2 people to go out and canvass. I know that you physically can't, but you know what? You have so many supporters behind you. You don't know how many people love you, Patty. You could put a thing out and say, hey, you know what? In the town that I live in, this is where I live. If anybody within 50 miles could go out and canvass their community and get 10,000 people to canvass against this guy for a Democrat or anybody else to challenge him to get him out of office, get him out of office. He does not belong there.
You know that movie? Yeah, what was that movie with... I think it was Jane Fonda in that, and it was a news desk, it was a newsroom or something like that.
Network, where they said, we're not going to take it anymore, that
yeah,
one?
mad as hell, and I'm not going to take it anymore. This is just the way I feel, and I think this is basically the whole pulse of the people of the United States.
Precisely.
And we are so frustrated that we can't take it out. People, we don't know how to take it out. On who is really to blame, and that is Congress, because we've been divided. People, wake up. Wake up. We got to put any differences, any issues that has to be put aside, and we have got to unite in this country. We really do, for the common good, of all, for the common good of our country, because otherwise we're not going to have a country pretty soon. We're at the precipice right now.
You know what I say? Responsibility looks forward. Blame looks backwards. Let's look forward. Let's be responsible for ourselves, for our words, for our thoughts, for our deeds. Let us choose to be nonviolent with each other and show some compassion and tolerance for each other's cultures and ideas and lives, and choose to move within our Constitution. Live by the rules that we have. And really, seriously, this is the thing. This is where we've gone astray, is we've had both this two-party system where they've decided it's okay for them to bend the rules a little bit. No, it's not.
Bend them.
This is the deal.
They've been breaking the rules right and left.
For so long.
If you or I, or any John Doe or Jane Doe out here listening, would be breaking the rules, okay, as Congress has been breaking, we wouldn't be in jail. We would be underneath the jail. You hear me?
Yes.
But they are the privilege.
100%.
They've been making it.
And I'm hearing you, man. Like, we know exactly what would happen. Let's just talk Charlottesville. Do you think if that was Black Lives Matter, we would have had the same I mean, the police were told to stand down. There were people getting beaten, and the police did nothing.
You know what I have to say
Right next to the
about
police department. It was in the police, right next door to the police department. And the people who were on video seeing attacking someone, and the guy was a school teacher, nonviolent. They attacked him 100%. It's all on video. They even attacked the videographer. Those people have not even been charged by the FBI or the police department. Now, how long do you think that would have happened if the colors were opposite?
Well, see, that's a different thing because everybody's been triggered, okay? Everybody's been programmed to have this itchy trigger, okay? And that's the programming because of the hot button terms that have been coming out. People,
Patty, I
please
disagree.
hear me.
I think it's white supremacy.
Please, wait a minute. White supremacy has always been, the Ku Klux Klan has been in this country for a few hundred years, okay? And it's probably always going to live unless, there is some soul-searching going on here. But there has been politics at hand that has pushed people over the edge as well, okay? And let's face it, the black community has never really been given a fair shake. Okay, while opportunities have expanded to them, okay, and they're progressing, they're becoming productive members of our society. They've been productive members of our society for the most part, but yet there's still a fragment where they've been disenfranchised. Okay, do you really think people want to live in dilapidated community? No, but they feel safer in those communities. Why? Because someplace else it might not be so safe, or they might not be able to afford it. Because urban redevelopment, there you go. It's all about
Patty,
the politics, and this is the stuff that has been trickling down.
Patty, this is
from
how
Congress.
It works. My nephew, who is dark-skinned, he's half black. He stopped driving his old 1996 Mercedes-Benz to work 10 miles away and back. He would go to work 10 miles away and back. He would get stopped at least 3 times a month when he drove his car for several years. He decided to stop riding his car and take the bus, but he rides his bike, puts it on the bus. Sometimes he rides all the way back. When he rides all the way back, he often gets stopped by the police. So tell me, that does not happen to white people. So there is something dramatically wrong. So let's just clear cut down to the idea of forget this. It's not like a cultural. This is intentional institutional racism that has got to come to an immediate halt. It's unreasonable that our brothers and sisters, you and I as women, are paid less
Lonnie,
money.
You lead by example, and Congress has got to set the tone of togetherness rather than divisive rancor. Okay? Now, you said that this was your nephew, who is a young man of color?
Yes.
Okay. My son is a young man of color. Okay? My son, who graduated from Leechburg High School in 2003, had the most in scholarships of anybody, but wasn't good enough to be on the National Honor Society, you see. And he left there, and he went to St. Vincent College, which is a pretty exclusive university, college, here in western Pennsylvania. And he graduated in 2007, and guess who the keynote speaker was at his commencement? George W. Bush. And he was actually quite enlightening and humorous. However, my son now, he's on the east from us. I'm not going to give any specifics about my son's location. But he has several businesses. He's part owner in a pretty big business. And, he's doing well. But I always told him, be careful. Be careful out there. And should you ever get stopped, keep your hands in plain view and show the utmost respect, which is how he was raised, to be respectful. And a lot of this comes from surrounding, from community. There is a time when we didn't have all of this right. Here comes another question, okay? Because it's all relative to our society right now that is plagued, with drugs. Why is it that every country we invade, their drug of choice ends up on our streets? Who the heck is bringing it in here? It's not our military. You can't get a tourist visa going into these war zones. Who's bringing it in? Who's making the money?
You're talking to me about
who's making that dark money so they can fund their ops?
That's who's doing it, the CIA.
Well, thank you.
I mean, let's be really clear. They have a black budget. If we had our Congress say, you know what, you guys, we're going to have you be accountable for every dollar. We're going to draw a line. That's the way it's going to be from.
Hey, didn't Bill Clinton had a run? Wasn't there a runway out there in Arkansas where a lot of stuff used to get flown in down there?
Yeah, but who brought that in? The Bush crime family. Clinton's part of the Bush crime family. Let's just don't even go with all that stuff.
That's exactly okay. Look, you got Republicans, you got Democrats. It's the same prostitute wearing the different colored dress that's been working against the American people.
Don't badmouth prostitutes. I'm going to
okay. Look, Clinton. Everybody kind of liked Bill Clinton. He made a bunch of millionaires, but guess what he did? He actually lit the fuse for the financial crisis with the repeal of the Glass-Steagall Act, which took away the regulations from the banks.
He also allowed Rupert Murdoch to own our television stations. And GE, he allowed the monopolizing of our television stations.
And Hillary said they were broke when they left office. Wouldn't you love to be that broke? You know, people wake up. I'm a registered Democrat because I have to be registered to something because I'd rather be an independent.
Not me. I'm Dem Exit. They can go, you know what, like, honestly, no. They have not apologized for stealing the election. We have a...
Well, I got to tell you...
In my view, the DNC is 100% responsible.
Corrupt.
They chose over Bernie. That's
Sanders.
my view. 100%. So no.
But now you just said the forbidden word. But anyhow,
I did. I beg your pardon.
Okay. But anyhow, look, it's all corrupt, and they've been playing us like a $2 violin. Congress, the politicians, they've been playing us like a $2 violin. Let me tell you who the number one person I think is absolutely stellar. Okay, in Congress, believe me, it isn't Nancy Pelosi or Paul Ryan. It's Tammy Duckworth. That woman has served our country and gave her
100%.
Gave her legs.
And she is willing to put up with the
That
bull.
woman is stellar, and she has got guts and glory in her. Okay? Now, about women and about equal pay, listen, in reality, any man out there, I don't care if you're white, black, who you are, okay? Any man out there that's married, that has a family, they would like to have that additional income for their wife making that to their household. This is common sense, and they have gotten us away from common sense. People,
okay, I'm going to give you some common sense. We have we have 20 minutes left. So your congressman, whatever his name was, it was a weird name. Rothfuss. Are you closer to his Beaver office, Johnston office, or Ross Township office?
Well, he used to have an office in Lower Borough, but I guess that was close to the nuclear site up here, so I guess he must have packed
back. Or do you want his D.C. office number? Let's give that. It's his D.C. office number.
I like to go to the top because, that's where the poop flows downhill.
Well, let's do this. The D.C. office number is 202.
Let me drop it.
Okay.
202.
225.
Uh-huh.
And 225 is always a congressperson, in case you didn't know. 224 is the Senate, 225 is the Congress.
Good to know that.
2065. And do you want his fax number?
Oh, I had a faxathon to Jack Murtha, didn't you?
Okay, well, let's give the fax number then, because you might want to get a faxathon going. 202-225-5709. That's his D.C. office. A faxathon would be good, and you know what? We could go to Donna Gilmore's website. She has an updated version of the reasons why not to vote for this bill, 3053, for the House resolution. It's called the Policy Amendment Act of 2017, Nuclear Waste Policy Amendment Act. And we could just fax it to them. If you can get people to fax it, they can save it as a PDF and fax it online. Because honestly, this is super important. I don't know if people know about it, but it is have you heard about this bill?
Somewhat, yes. You know, and you know what I've been dealing with up here, so all things are relative.
What does that mean?
Well, anytime with nuclear, there's going to be, unless you know the totality of what the bill is, there's going to be residual dents and pings that everything nuclear is going to feel.
What do you mean by that? Explain that. Like, that's an interesting point of view. What do you mean by that?
Well, okay, for example, you remember the Nuclear Regulatory Commission waste confidence doctrine?
I don't know what you're talking about offhand, so I will say probably not.
Okay, well, the Nuclear Regulatory Commission never had a place because to deal with waste. No place to put it because everything's filled up.
Yeah, that
okay?
I know.
Okay, and so at these crumbling nuclear reactors, which are, they have bullseyes on them from terrorists, the Nuclear Regulatory Commission came up with, well, these reactors are producing a lot of, high-level waste. We don't have anywhere to put it. So we're coming out with a doctrine that says we feel confident that waste can just stay there at the site, at the nuclear reactor that's crumbling, you see, and it'll be safe for 1,000 years or 100 years, until they can do something. They've got to be insane because we haven't even, I think it was 1,000 years, we haven't even been dealing with this stuff for 100 years, okay? And they want to leave the stuff on site that already has a bullseye. Let's put a bigger bullseye on our crumbling nuclear reactors, okay? Let's put a bigger bullseye. And this is how they've been dealing with nuclear. They not 1 cent has gone into any research at all to try to neutralize this stuff. Because as a man thinketh, so is he. If he can be conceived in thought, it can be conceived. All it takes is research, the brains, and money. Okay? But they don't want to give any money to that. They want us to subsidize what we have been doing all along, these nuclear reactors like 3 Mile Island. Okay? The people have been paying for these reactors while the companies have been making buku bucks and poisoning the people. And we're supposed to be happy.
It's not just the companies. It's human beings who run those companies who are like, oh, yeah, that's too bad about those people dying.
Because look at what the government did. They went into these universities, and there was a huge push for nuclear. And so in academia, in the field of academia, these people got brainwashed. They really did. Don't you remember when, hey, nuclear was all safe? Didn't affect you.
I don't think they just got brainwashed. I think they got threatened. If you question that nuclear is a harm, you cannot get a job.
Well, that's true. Look what happened to Dr. Mancuso and John Goffman.
Exactly.
Okay?
And look what happens to everyone who attempts to stand up to these people. This is what I mean. The industrial military complex has taken over. It's obvious.
Yes, but they have taken over at the bidding and at the approval of the United States Congress, because Congress has a power to redline. They have a power to do that stuff and to stop this shenanigans.
So let's just talk reality here, sister. If Congress did that tomorrow, let's just say they did that tomorrow. Tomorrow they all got this come to Jesus moment and said, you know what? We're sending all these perpetrators, all these secret budgets, a gigantic letter says, we're not asking you to stop what you're doing. We want to know your numbers every day from this day forward. And you report daily. That's what it's going to be. And no hidden money. At the end of the year, if you fall short, you do not exist. So this is how many of those people would die if they signed that letter.
You know what? I don't know if that would even, if it would die or if they wouldn't. But I'm going to tell you something. There would be a shakeup in our government.
That is what we need.
That would cause a shakeup. Our Congress, I'll tell you what. Our Congress, they have no testicles. None of them. They have nothing. You know why? Because they're all a bunch of self-serving. They don't give a hootin' about us. They refer to us as, what is it, Lonnie? Bottom feeders? Isn't that it? They refer to us as bottom feeders in this country, the working class people.
Useless feeders. That's what we're called, useless feeders.
Useless feeders.
But this is the issue. It only happens, like, let's be clear, you need to know your congressperson. You need to be poking this MFer in the eye. Just because...
He's not going to do anything, and he's weak.
Does not matter.
Do you know who's been doing things for my community up here? Senator Bob Casey. Jack Murtha died, and Jack Murtha was a Democrat, true enough, but he was a hawk, okay? And when he saw the truth, when he saw the documents, that was all she wrote. And he wrote the law, first time ever, that a licensed facility under the jurisdiction of the Nuclear Regulatory Commission was ripped out of the jurisdiction of the NRC and given to the Army Corps of Engineers, which was an active license. That's never happened. And while the NRC and everybody didn't want to deal with this site that was all perfectly safe, it's now up to a $350 million cleanup, to which, under the FOOSRAP program, the companies will repay the coffers of the taxpayers. You know, everything has to be a fight because, they have a tolling agreement that they have to sign continuously, okay, every so many years.
Yeah, but we're funding there. We're cleaning it up, and this is the deal. This is the whole lie. I am so completely sick of the lies.
Well, then we need to change our laws, and only Congress can change those laws, and that's to make, when you poison the earth, in European countries, those corporate heads are going to jail. They're going to jail, and they're getting fined.
The only way we're going to change this is for us to know, like our own elected officials, we need to let them know how we feel, and we want them to side on this, and if not, we're going to challenge them.
We need term limits. We need term limits in this country.
What about in your district? Is your congressperson popular?
Rufus? No. In my area, in the Alakiski Valley, I don't think he's made an appearance at all, except when it was an election time.
How did he get elected?
Fundraiser. Well, look at what they've done. They've reapportioned, redistricted, and everything else. That's the other thing. We need to go back to the old congressional, Continental Congress districts. That's what we need to do. We need to go back to those old districts. This gerrymandering and all this crap, it is being rigged against the American people. It's not about party. This isn't a football team. It's not their side, one side and the other team, the Republican team and the Democrat. It's about the American people. It's about who bears the weight of this country on its back and out of their pockets.
Well, this is the real question. Is like there are some very, very well-off Americans who could pay a very minor amount. Their adjustment in their lifestyle wouldn't even be felt. And
yeah, but they don't want to.
They don't want to healing our country. But and also the idea about let's stop the military, warfare. Let's stop. I mean, we have enough. We do not need to keep sending our soldiers to war, even making them drone soldiers. That still causes PTSD. The whole idea, we do not need to do that to our people. We can say we're a peaceful nation and we need a smaller army. And yes, we'll be ready in times of big war, but no, we're not going to have a gigantic war machine, and we're going to stop nuclear weapons, we're going to stop using depleted uranium, and we're going to shift our energy into rebuilding our country and finding solutions for the nuclear and chemical waste that's happened because of the war machine.
There's a lot to the saying, that old adage, where you get more flies with honey than you do with vinegar. And our country, and especially the people within, we need to lighten up on the rhetoric, folks.
Love.
We need to lighten up on the rhetoric. We need to come together, on this cause. We really do. Put your other issues aside, but we need to come together because things would get better if we are united as a people of this country. Here's the thing. If we as a nation started being a little bit more friendly to other nations, I bet you a lot of doors would open for us. Rather than, going in there and being imperialists and taking over. But yet and still, we go into other countries and we say things in the name of, it's humanitarian, or we're going in there to take over their oil.
Patty,
now,
you're talking about accountability.
Wait a minute. When the genocide in Rwanda was going on, Bill Clinton was president, he was asked, are we going to do anything in Rwanda? And his reply was, we don't have any interest there. Oh, what about human rights that we were pounding China about and every other country about human rights? We didn't care. Okay, why? Well, because it was a poor nation of black folks.
And no assets.
This is a human race. It's not about black, white, or anything. It's the human race. And we're going to be extinct here, okay, if all this stuff just keeps on going. We're going to implode.
So the answer is love. The answer is love. Love is greater than fear. Happiness is resistance. You are going to lose your job. We are going to canvass every community. We're going to organize and get people to canvass against you because you need to understand this. These are the facts. And if you can justify how you can vote against these known facts, especially this Nuclear Waste Policy Amendment Act, this is outrageous that they think they're just going to pass it.
Look at the history of our country and its people. You remember the child labor laws? People rose up against that, okay? How the sweatshops, people rose up against that. When we didn't have unions in this country, people rose up against that, and that stuff got organized. The only thing is, we need people to help get this organized. And this is my call out to people who stand in the pulpits. Martin Luther King was assassinated because he peaceably, with love, marched people. And it wasn't just black, it was white, all colors, okay? Didn't matter who they were, what religion they were. They walked because it was about humanity and it was about equal rights, and this is what our country is about, okay? But we need the people in the pulpits to come out because this is a crisis in our country that is affecting everything and everyone that sits in your pews. We need leaders. We need somebody to get together and organize these people. Is there a risk at it? You betcha. They killed Martin Luther King. They killed John F. Kennedy.
Do I think that's going to happen? Well, I think it will, actually. I think it will when it gets down to it. I think Americans will save themselves. Because what you can't take away is a people's right. We believe we have the right to free speech, no matter what. Even if you want to spy on us, we have a right to our freedom of thought. We have a right to develop ourselves. And I do not believe that people are going to click their heels and say, Sieg Heil. And,
well, see, here's a scary thing that's going on right now, and it's about the press. Now, I got to tell you, there's some news media out there that's real, flaky, and everybody has seen all kinds of absurd things on the internet. But I got to tell you, there's a lot of reporting that is going on today that is based on fact. Now, that being said, that our founding fathers made the freedom of the press the First Amendment because they wanted dissemination of information to the American people so the American people could arm themselves with this knowledge and, if necessary, protect our country against any evils that are from within as well. And if the First Amendment goes, guess what's next, folks? To all my listening folks out there, the Second Amendment, which everybody has feared that the government's going to come take my guns. Well, I'll tell you what, when the First Amendment goes, you better start burying your gun somewhere because that one's sure to go. Because when martial law happens in this country, they're coming for everybody's gun. And we have a right to bear arms in this country. I just don't see the necessity for somebody to have a bazooka, a machine gun to go out and kill Bambi. But, hey, we have this freedom in this country. And who's allowed this? Congress.
So, you know what? We have 2 minutes
left. For the lobbyists.
Patty, I just want to interrupt here because I want to tell our listeners that we have 2 minutes left. Patty and I are going to continue this conversation. We're going to let the timer run out, and I'm going to let it beep, and we'll end the show.
Let me say something in closing.
Please do.
Okay.
And then we're going to continue after that, so hold on. Go ahead.
To all the American people out here, I don't care who you are. I don't care what your beliefs are. I don't care what the color of your skin are. You're Americans. We all bleed red. Please, let's get it together. Put it aside. Think. We are the best country in the world. Let's bring it together.
We're the best because we have a deep humanity and a love and appreciation for our differences. And we see ourselves as one united people. We're not saying we have to, however you want to separate yourself, fine. But there's no room for violence. There's no room for bigotry in our country, period. And that's what I think. And I think that is the great American experiment. And that's what our continuation with the Constitution is all about. We have 52 seconds left. I'm going to let this timer beep out. I want to thank everyone for joining us. This is Lonnie Clark with the Age of Fission radio show. And thank you, KEPW.org, EugenePeaceWorks.org, online, new FM radio station, who's a new affiliate of our radio show. I'm giving them 2 of our shows a week. I really appreciate them. And put your courage feet on, you guys, because guess what? It matters. Patty Ameno is a champion for people in her community, and thank you, Patty, for all the work you've done for the people in your community, even though they suffered at the hands of the nuclear industry.
Yes, and our government let that happen. Thank you, Lonnie, and to the people that's been listening. Thank you. Folks, keep the flag flying.
Thanks for listening. You've been listening to Lonnie Clark with the Age of Fission radio show. This has been a pre-recorded interview with Patty Ameno, who is a champion for the people of her town of Apollo, Pennsylvania. She was a graduate of IUP, and her family lived 100 feet across from the Pennsylvania Route 66, from a former steel mill that had been converted for processing fuel for the U.S. Navy ships and Marines. And actually, as she says, the word nuclear never came up, but it was a nuclear site. And she spent 25 years of her life seeking justice and help for the people of her town. She's a very valuable asset, a really great American, and I appreciate every second that she gives us here on the show. Also, in case you didn't know, the forbidden word that we talked about where the beeping came in was the name of our president, which she asked me not to say. That was one of our agreements. Don't say that name, because she didn't want to make it about his antics. She wanted to make it about the bigger picture. So that was kind of an interesting thing, having to go back and edit out all of his times that I said that. So, because you know me, you know how I like to call him traitor. I can't say that. Anyways, put your courage feet on. It does actually matter if you get engaged. Every drop fills the bucket, and that's the only way that we're going to really save our planet. It's not even just our country, it's our planet. We're having, what do we call this, climate change? Because we're having an environmental collapse, folks. So it matters. We can turn the ship around. Thanks for listening, and we will talk with you guys soon. You've been listening to Lonnie Clark and the Age of Fission radio show. Find our podcasts on our website, ucy.tv/AOF, or on our YouTube channel, UCY TV Age of Fission, where live podcasts of our show are posted within an hour after our show ends. We want to thank our affiliate in Eugene, Oregon, who rebroadcasts our show on their station, KEPW.org. www.kepw.org. We especially want to thank them for also carrying Libby Halevi's Nuclear Hot Seat, which airs on UCY.TV every Saturday at 11 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. Your support of our station is greatly appreciated. UCY.TV is a listener-sponsored station that relies on your engagement to continue to grow. Contributions to UCY.TV can be made on our website, www.ucy.tv, and clicking on the donate button. Go to kepw.org for instructions on contributing to their efforts. Thanks again for listening to UCY.TV and the Age of Fission radio show. It takes more than a village. It takes every person who cares about our future. It is up to us, and we.
This is JJ Inc. from